So if you've been following along, in episode 7, I left room for a slide-out kitchen when I put the aluminum sheeting on the outside of the trailer. I put a scrap piece of aluminum over top of the opening, and I've traveled with it since. So I figured before I showed you how I built the slide-out kitchen, I'd show you how I put the door in for it. So I thought I would cover the 2x4 frame with aluminum. So now I needed to build a door. I painted some checker plate aluminum and cut it to size, and then I supported it on a table to line up the brackets. Once I got the brackets lined up and I had a simple 2x2 framing behind the aluminum, it was time to finish off the inside of the door. I chose barrel style locks that I found at my hardware store, but they came with a little bracket which would not work for me in this scenario, so I just ground them off. So I cut out a piece of aluminum to cover the top of the door and applied some weatherproof sealant to keep the water out. Let me just give you a reminder in this video that galvanic corrosion or galvanic reaction occurs when you have two dissimilar metals touching each other. The metal screws that I have and the silver aluminum on the trailer all have black nylon washers. When I first built the trailer, I didn't clarify that in the earlier videos. So in this video and in the future videos, if you see me installing screws or aluminum against metal, be aware that I am aware of galvanic corrosion. If I don't show the washers being installed, sometimes it gets missed during filming, but I am aware. Thank you. Just use a simple gate latch to keep the door open when it was lifted up. And this is an inexpensive way to countersink a little hole for the screws in the aluminum. 2x4 was needed for support for a future paper towel rack. Insulated the door. This is the same aluminum that I used to cover the trailer. And there will be a magnetic knife rack on the space to the right of the paper towel holder. This video is made possible by the generous support from Princess Auto, Cabela's and Bass Pro Shops, and Waterport. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, it's time to start building the slide-out kitchen. I used 3/4 inch laminated plywood, routed channels in the plywood. Keep in mind that I am not a professional cabinet maker. This is the first time that I've ever attempted such a project. First time I've ever built a trailer. So if you're new to the channel, I am not an expert in any of this, and if you're looking for a tutorial on how to make cabinets, you've chosen the wrong video. I'm hoping to give you some inspiration and some new ideas to make a project of this of your own. I had my barbecue and grill already purchased, so I was able to custom build the slide-out kitchen to their dimensions. Make sure to stay tuned at the end of the video and I'll go over the barbecue and grill and show you how the kitchen works. After I routed all of the channels in the wood, it was time to do one final dry fit to make sure that everything lined up properly. You'll notice in this video that I use a cordless drill and a cordless jigsaw for 90% of the work I do on my trailer. So when it was time to glue the slide-out kitchen together, the only space that I could keep heated was inside of the trailer. So I moved the slide-out kitchen inside of Eddie and lit up the wood stove and kept a nice fire going and the heater going so that the wood glue would be the right temperature. This was a less than ideal working environment, but I had to make the best of it. Again, I've never done this before, so this is not your textbook way of doing it.
Well, it was a bit of a gong show, but I think for the most part, it worked.
Now it was time to build the one slide-out drawer in the slide-out kitchen. Using a flat scrap of plywood as a guide, I was able to router a channel through all three panels so that the bottom of the drawer would fit in perfectly. So to attach the drawer slides, I made sure it was on a very flat surface. Attach the part of the bracket that attaches to the drawer. Disconnected that and took the remaining part of the bracket into the slide-out kitchen. I used a scrap piece of plywood to make sure it was the right height from the bottom of the slide-out kitchen. Removed that scrap piece of plywood and the drawer fit in perfectly. I decided to cover the slide-out kitchen with black aluminum that I got from the building supply store. It's normally used for roofing applications. They sell it by the foot and it's fairly inexpensive.
Here.
The benefit of the black aluminum is that it would cover up any screws I used to secure the panels in the slide-out kitchen. Then it was time to begin the very long process of installing the aluminum trim around all the edges. I considered just gluing the aluminum pieces to the slide-out kitchen, but ultimately decided to fasten them with screws. And the main reason for this was that the black aluminum does scratch fairly easily, and I thought to myself that if it was ever damaged to the point where I wanted to replace it, it was much easier to just unscrew the aluminum capping and replace the sheets compared to having to rip them off if they were glued to the wood. I found some nice flush handles for the front of the slide-out kitchen. They were a little heavier than I would have liked, but I did like the look of them, so decided to go with those. And I needed a low profile for when the door closed in front of the slide-out kitchen. The handles were exactly 3/4 inches, so on the one slide-out drawer I used a black piece of aluminum on the back to cover it up. I decided to install casters to assist with the slide-out kitchen rolling along the floor. The 4 poles worked well to keep the slide-out kitchen in place. However, as the weight of the slide-out kitchen increased, I realized that it was going to need another support. So I decided to put a removable post in with a wheel that would swivel when it was being pulled out. Probably one of my least favorite things to do is plumbing. Inevitably, it was time to install the sink. Water for the sink would be supplied by the water port hanging on the back of the trailer's bumper. I would just be using cold water, so I just needed to drill one hole for a water supply through the back of the slide-out kitchen. The tight quarters made drilling the hole for the drain a little more difficult. I needed the Dremel to drill a pilot hole, and then I went underneath of the trailer with the hole saw to drill the hole for the drain. So I just used a galvanized cap to cap off one end of the faucet, and the water supply for the second one would slide out through the back of the slide-out kitchen. I had to cut a hole in the bottom of the slide-out kitchen to access the water supply behind the sink. So the water port can be pressurized with the bite pump, and it's the perfect tool to pressurize the water supply for the sink. Quick releases make it easy to attach it when it's time to pack up the kitchen. The back storage compartment of the slide-out kitchen is a perfect spot to hide small propane tanks and all of the miscellaneous items that I will need for the slide-out kitchen. This is what it looks like inside, and here are the fence poles when the slide-out kitchen is pulled out. Make sure to check out episode 18 to see how the rail system works. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. This video has taken me the longest to make in the entire series. If you haven't already done so, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. Make sure to follow along for future builds and future ventures with me and Eddie. Cheers.